I'm laughing because otherwise I would be crying. We joke about our health system all the time, but I feel like it's reached a point where it is so irrational. The incentives are so misaligned that no one's actually taking care of people. And people like nurses who are actually, driven by a desire to care, even their hands are tied sometimes by a few bad actors with big influence.
We lost my father in March 2023. And he spent a lot of time in post-acute care. So he was at nursing homes, he was at rehab centers, he was at long-term care. And I mean, these environments, I don't know if you've seen them or if you've been in them, they are just sad. It is really, really sad how we treat our elderly and our critically sick in these environments.
I'll say one last thing on PBMs. Okay. I'm really, really interested in what happens in Arkansas, believe it or not.
Right.
Arkansas has become the first state in the country to say that if you are operating a PBM, you cannot operate a retail pharmacy in our state starting January 1st, 2026. 2 states have work requirements and people have fallen off of the rolls because they have found it very burdensome. There are technological issues in uploading information.
This ain't making it through the Senate. I mean, I'm going to be shocked because, as you said, the political cost of this is super high.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Debunked, where we analyze healthcare news with some pizzazz and personality. May was such a busy news month, Samir, so let's just get right to it. I'm having a feeling of deja vu here. Last month's episode, we started with Unitedhealthcare and how they had dismal earnings and the stock was on a huge slide. This month also, we're starting, we're talking about how the mighty fall, and I think they fell a little bit further this month. They actually announced that their CEO, Andrew Whitty, was leaving.
Yeah.
And they couldn't provide 2025 guidance anymore, which is, quite far to fall for a stable company. That means you don't know how to predict the future. About your own performance, you can't predict. Interestingly, they're bringing back the current chairman, Stephen Helmsley, who was previously the CEO of the company from 2006 to 2017. Mm-hmm. That feels like eons ago. So what kind of a change circumstance is he finding? What kind of current pressures do you think he's going to have to deal with?
Wow, this is becoming a broken record.
Yeah, broken
seriously.
record.
I mean, it's like we're talking about Unitedhealthcare as much as we talk about AI. I'm like, are they going to be synonymous? AI? I'm kidding. But I mean, look, the list is pretty long.
Yeah.
Right? His like laundry list, grocery list, whatever you want to call it, is fairly long. Right? You got significant pressure from regulatory. Mm-hmm. Right? You still got the fallout from the cybersecurity, right? Incident, right? Mm-hmm. You have now financial instability, right? And leadership changes, right? And all this scrutiny with Medicare Advantage as well.
Yeah.
Right? So we just keep piling on.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, just in general, payers are under the microscope, right? Like, I mean, I think in general, like with everything that the administration is doing, with specifically what they've been having to deal with, but it's shocking to me. You're a publicly traded company, one of the largest, if not the largest insurer, right?
The largest insurer, actually.
And you don't have a roadmap for 2025? Like, what are their investors thinking? Like, you're literally going to tell your investors, yeah, we just don't know. We can't give you any information. So I also honestly have a hard time believing that they won't figure it out. I mean, this is, again, are you too big to fail? Remember, we've talked about that before with big companies. But I mean, if this was a smaller company or second place, third place, fourth place, I mean, this would be like the disaster would be in front of you. It would be like, this is going to happen.
Right.
But, I don't think us as a society, as an economy, can handle these guys failing. Like, it would have crippling effects.
Let me be clear. We're not looking for anyone to be failing, and especially a company that has so much reach into so much
Yeah.
of patient care. Unitedhealthcare is not just an insurance company,
No,
people
no, no.
forget. They actually now employ the most physicians in the United States. So no one is rooting for their failure, let me be clear. But it's just, like I said, quite far to fall for a stable company to not to be able to say, here's what our earnings guidance is for the rest of the year.
No, 100%. I'm agreeing with you. Like I'm not saying that that's gonna fail. I'm saying we can't let
Yeah,
this fail.
yeah.
Like it's so many fires to put out. Maybe you start with the hottest one. I don't know which one that is.
You
but
don't
like
know which
you
one
gotta-
that is.
Yeah.
Talking about not the hottest one, but being in the hot seat, I guess. The
We're
Guardian.
gonna continue.
It-
We're gonna continue.
There's more bad news when it comes to Unitedhealthcare. The Guardian reported last month that the company has been secretly paying thousands of dollars to nursing homes so that the nursing homes don't transfer their residents to hospitals for care.
Yeah.
So apparently what they're reporting is United Health stationed its staffers at these nursing homes, and sometimes they were making decisions on who receives immediate hospital care, and many times they decided that no, they shouldn't receive hospital care and they should remain in the nursing homes. Now, it's important to note that these are largely Medicare Advantage enrollees, which means the United States government and us, taxpayers, pay a lump sum for each of these patients' care. And so when you send them to a hospital, there's more, it's more expensive care. Now, to talk about how they responded, they actually put out a lengthy statement basically saying that Guardian was presenting anecdotes as facts. And they also said that the DOJ looked into these whistleblower allegations from previous employees and they declined to charge. I don't know, how does that sound to you? The whole, I mean, we're gonna put both the initial story by Guardian and the statement from United in the description of this video, so people can feel free to, check it out. But your take, Samir.
If this is true, this is absolutely, truly disgusting. I'm just gonna say that. But as you mentioned, right, like you have a bundled payment, right?
Yeah.
So if I gave you a lump sum of money to go perform a service, you're going to try to extract as much margin out of that as possible.
Right.
I mean, it's just common business sense, right?
Right.
There's revenue, there's cost. I control cost, I increase revenue. That's basically it, right? That's margin. So I get that. But fine, you want to say these are disgruntled employees, you don't have the facts straight, you don't have the story, you don't have anecdotes. But I mean, even if an iota of this is true, but they're not rejecting the claim that there are staffers at these nursing homes, and that is not like a hidden fact. This is like known in the industry that this happens, right? But I think the nursing homes are complicit here as well, because if you think about it, let me see, if I don't send the patient to the hospital, United is going to give me a bigger, fatter bonus.
Right.
So, I mean, let's just be honest here, right? United might be the one who's, managing the program, if you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they're also finding complicit people to go along with this, right? And some of them, like you said, they own so much stuff.
Yes.
Right? Providers, this, PBM, they own a lot of stuff.
Right.
So I'm sure there's some of that happening as well. But I mean, even if you're talking about this, even in a short, small microcosm of experience, this is really disgusting. And I have a personal story here, right, with this. Like, we lost my father in March 2023, and he spent a lot of time in post-acute care. So he was at nursing homes, he was at rehab centers, he was at long-term care. And I mean, these environments, I don't know if you've seen them or if you've been in them, they are just sad. It is really, really sad how we treat our elderly and our critically sick in these environments. This is like the lost part of healthcare. They're underfunded. I'm not going to make comments on the people who work there. I mean, it's like, you're getting paid less, right? You're a nurse, you're working in a nursing home. Mm-hmm. You're doing it either because your skill level was not good enough, you couldn't get a job somewhere, or you're doing it because you really care, right? Like, you really care about these people. But these people, these places are they're broken, they're old, right? The equipment is old, the technology is old. The nurse-patient ratios are outrageous.
They're overworked.
They're
absolutely
overworked, understaffed, all those things you want to say, right?
Yeah.
And so it is just a very, very depressing environment, but many times it is the only option. And the only reason my father did not die there is because we had 12 to 16 hours of coverage for him from our own family. Like you have to advocate so much for your patient. And even in this article it talks about, right? There's people who are trying to advocate, but you also saw some people were saying that they were quoted, you know, I got a call about my dad. Like they weren't there. So you can't, you're not having anybody able to advocate for you there. So you're just working the system, right? The nursing home person is calling the physician on call, or sometimes they're not even physicians. They're people basically acting like coordinators and making all these assumptions and saying, I mean, what was crazy to me is you're taking potential stroke patients and saying it's just TIA.
Right.
I mean, this was ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we ourselves had to fight for him to get transferred back to the hospital.
Right.
And the only reason we were able to do it is because we were actively there,
Right.
12 to 16 hours a day. My sister-in-law is a nurse, and we know people.
Right.
And so we were able to get him transferred. I mean, we even got to the point where we even had relationships with a private ambulance company, and we were going to get him just put on an ambulance and get him out of there.
Moved there.
It was that bad and that sickening. So
Yeah.
even if a piece of this is real, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is truly bad.
You know, I'm laughing because otherwise I would be crying. We joke about our health system all the time, but I feel like it's reached a point where it is so irrational. The incentives are so misaligned that no one's actually taking care of people. And people like nurses who are actually, you know, driven by a desire to care, even their hands are tied sometimes by a few bad actors with big influence.
And these people care, right? At the deep down, at the core of a nurse, I have many nurses in my family. You might be disgruntled, overworked, whatever, but at the core of why you got involved in this business is because you care.
Right.
They want to try to do the right thing.
Right thing. Yeah.
But when you have somebody literally, like, you know, not literally, but whatever you want to call it, putting a gun to your head and saying, nah, your incentives are not aligned with delivering the best care for this patient. I mean, it is truly sad, and I can't believe that this, and it's happening every day. Like right now in your neighborhoods, this is happening in your nursing homes.
You know, it's funny. I keep going back to Mehmet Oz, who, as we talked about before, is actually an MA broker. I think he still was an MA broker when he was nominated to become CMS administrator. And he basically said, when asked in the Senate hearing to confirm him, that Medicare Advantage sales is the part that has the most abuses in the private insurance industry. So we're going to be seeing, MA has a lot of good elements in it. Obviously, it has more choice for people, but there's a lot of scope for fraud, and I think we're going to be seeing, I mean, last month we reported on the DOJ looking at certain groups for MA, plan abuse and things like that. I think we're going to see more. But
people are always going to game the system, right?
I know, and to the point where we can't tinker at the edges. I don't know how the system will be overall, but we're still tinkering at the edges, trying to root out inefficiency here and fraud there. Well, the whole system is created to encourage bad behavior. Anyway, there's my rant. Going to the next.
And mine too, sorry.
We're going to our next hot topic, which is, of course, drug pricing and how we as Americans pay much more than other developed nations for the exact same medication. So Trump, in his first term, tried to do something about this. It got caught up in legal, in lawsuits and stuff, and ultimately I think the Biden administration rescinded it. He's trying the second time around to try to control drug pricing in the United States. He issued an executive order last month. Now, details were scant. Now, slowly it's emerging. But basically, the idea was that, hey, my agencies, hey, CMS, hey, HHS, you guys need to figure out and communicate to pharma companies that we will want to pay only most favored nation pricing for branded products. Now, he didn't say that in the executive order, that got
Sure.
clarified later. But what is most favored nation? So basically, the HHS came out a few days after the executive order to explain that the pricing that is paid by, the lowest price that's paid by one of the 38 OECD countries,
Okay.
that has per capita GDP of at least 60% of the US.
Okay.
That is whatever pricing that nation is paying, that should be the
For
price
the branded.
for the
drugs,
branded
yeah.
drugs. Again, this has nothing to do with generics or
No,
biosimilars.
you can't control generics. Yeah.
You can't do any of
Yeah.
that. Oh, thank you. I did not know that. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Samir. So it has only to do with these branded products. Now, the other part, and I'm actually going to quote, the other part of the executive order was very, very interesting. So I'm going to read that part. It said, to the extent consistent with the law, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall facilitate direct-to-consumer purchasing programs for pharmaceutical manufacturers that sell their products to American patients at the most favored nation price. So what does this mean? So two things. One is that the GOP is more populous than it was before. Most people generally reasonably admit in the United States that we pay too much for drugs.
Yeah.
So is
Fact.
there going to be a easier chance of some legal mechanism while this becomes reality? Maybe a higher chance, we'll see. The second is that the Trump administration seems to be saying that we're going to go after PBMs by making it easier for pharma companies to directly sell. So, I'm trying to read between the lines here. Who should be more at concern? I mean, should it be pharma companies? Should it be PBMs? Because why? No one questions the need for pharma companies to exist.
Right.
Their only question is on pricing tactics, right? How much they charge.
Right.
But for the last few years, I've been hearing a lot about, do PBMs need to exist? And Trump, by encouraging direct to consumer marketing, is basically probably saying, hey, pharma, we're gonna not look after you, but hey, you are maybe not as much at risk as the PBMs. At least that's what I read. And I thought I want to read out this comment from a pharma analyst with UBS Investment Bank. He leads large cap pharma, and he basically said that he believes that this is going to be part of a bill. You can't just do it by executive order. He thinks it's going to be part of a bill, and most people will get into it. But if it's part of a bill, pharma can oppose, the lobby is going to swing into action.
Sure.
And there are certain sections within the GOP that will oppose. So this will not pass by without opposition. Then he's saying that he still thinks President Trump's tone is positive for the industry because Trump's main goals is, quote, increase ex-US prices to make prices abroad go up, and two, PBM reform, both of which could be a tailwind for pharma if successful. And this is the note that Trung Huynh, who's the head of large cap pharma analyst from UBS Investment Bank, he's the one who wrote this. And I kind of agree. I do feel that PBMs are more at risk. What do you think?
I can't believe I'm going to say this. Okay, it's on the record. I actually like what Trump is trying to do here.
Of course, there are many things that we. I mean, there are a lot of things that are horrific, but drug pricing.
But it's shocking coming from like
blue state folks like us.
I don't know. Not only that, but look, in theory, this makes sense. Now, who is going to lose their shit if this comes to the light of day? It's the middlemen.
It's the
PBMs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hallelujah.
Especially the legacy ones. I think there are modern ones that don't do
whatever.
the spread pricing and the rebates and all of that.
But if you think about it, if we eliminate the PBMs, right, and let's just say the structure stays the same, and I'll talk about consumer in a second, but okay, so the middlemen, the brokers, right, the guys eating the fat on the milk, right, basically. So now, pharma, you get to deal directly with the payer. And really, honestly, too, a lot of these big PBMs were owned by the payers.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you would basically set up a broker middleman, and then you own the middleman too. I mean, that was like highway robbery, and it was just happening in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So okay, you get rid of those guys, you got to deal with the payers directly. All that cream, that fat, technically can go away.
Yeah.
Right? So even if pharma is sitting here, I mean, pharma has been screaming, we're not the ones screwing it up, the PBMs are screwing it up,
And
right?
PBMs are saying pharma is
Pharma is screwing it up because
Yeah.
of the high rebates and there's whatever. Just
Yeah.
eliminate all that crap. Fine, you figure out you're gonna have to do a lot of math to figure out the pricing, okay? And the international global thing, let's put that aside for a second.
Yeah.
So now you go directly to the payer, right? So right there, whatever percentage savings you're gonna have, right? You're getting the cut. So if pharma was charging X and PBM was doing X plus whatever percentage, world didn't change for pharma. Now that X percentage plus the pharma
Yeah.
is gone,
Right.
right? So so in that sense, pharma should be kind of okay on that part, right? Now you're talking about going direct to consumer.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me because large population is insured,
Yes.
right? So you have to go through and have some sort of relationship with the payers because I need payer to cover a large portion of the drug that I'm gonna get, right? Like I pay and it's like mad science. Like you get the drug and then, you go pick it up at your pharmacy, and literally this has happened to me with the same drug too.
Yeah.
Like today I go and they're like, you don't know anything. Tomorrow I go and they're like, you owe $6. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, why is it $6?
Is doable.
No, but my point is, why is it 6 today and it was 0 yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, that's a true example for me. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same drug, same thing I do, 90 days refill.
Right.
I don't know what happened. Maybe my premium set or whatever, but nobody's explaining that to me.
Right.
Nobody
It's
explained it
very
to me.
opaque, yeah.
Fine, now you're going to go direct. Okay, so how does that work? Like, what kind of pricing am I going to get direct than that you're going to send to my to my payer,
Yeah.
and then flowing back to me? Now, is that only going to be people who are not insured through payers? Like, I don't understand that concept of like going direct to the consumer.
Well, Lilly Direct is doing that. Eli Lilly is doing that. Pfizer is doing that.
So maybe it's for certain drugs, right, that are not covered or don't have enough coverage or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think
Cuban
this-
to a certain extent is doing that. He's
right.
working with.
No, I guess yeah.
yeah.
But I guess in that, but he's also focusing a lot on generics too,
True.
right?
He's
So
largely
the
doing-
idea is that I think pharma should not be impacted if you do, hallelujah, eliminate the PBM.
Yeah.
Because that fat is just disappears. You were already pricing it what you were pricing it. Now you're going to have to work on pricing reform in general? Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Then with the international piece, yeah, I mean, look, the danger there is that let's just say you take some branded drug, which of course what we're talking about is in every disease category, there's typically 3, 4, 5, 6 drugs that are approved, and there's a timeline before generics can be created, right?
Right.
It's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I mean, in the insulin space, they just keep tweaking and then refiling, right? And then leaving
Right.
the generics out of the way.
Right.
Okay, so for those developed countries that are sort of getting those lower pricing from us, there's going to have to be an analysis done that do these people have other options?
Right.
Right? Are there other options? They can just sit there and say, okay, we just won't buy it from America. We'll just buy the same drug in that class that is branded through somebody else. So you're gonna have to figure that out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, for generics, this ain't gonna work
Yeah.
because there's hundreds of generics out there, and you're not gonna do this for generics.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be the interesting gameplay that's gonna happen from a math perspective.
Right.
Is drug by drug, where is that threshold going to be? Because the idea is if the supply of a certain drug in a class is majority US controlled in the general global market,
Right.
then you can put, pricing pressure.
Pressure.
You can increase pricing for them or whatever you want to call it. That can happen. But this is not going to happen overnight.
No.
So I think there's a little bit of a more there's more to it than this, but in the end of the day, the pharma could actually be, you're right, it could be actually the one who stands out being the winner because they look good in the public eye.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting the drug for the actual price the pharma was saying because there's no guy eating the fat in the middle.
Right.
And secondly, if this forces them to charge higher prices to everybody else, then they're making more money.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
I also in this game of drug pricing, I want to also clarify that it's not just PBMs and pharma that drive up drug pricing. Every entity in the chain,
Of
in
course,
the
no
middle,
payers in the end of the day, right?
the distributors,
Yeah.
people who distribute, even physicians and
Right.
provider groups jack up prices a little bit. But obviously, pharma and PBMs are the two big.
The two big. Well, it's almost like it's like imagine you're going to golf and you already have a handicap.
Yeah.
You're removing the handicap and saying, well, you still have to perform.
Right.
So the pressure will trickle down
Yeah.
to everybody.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the bad guy then?
Yeah.
Like, does the employer want to be the bad guy? Does the provider want to be
Right.
the bad guy? Like, right now, the bad guys are the big guys.
Right. Exactly.
But if those guys go away and
Who do you blame
and
then?
the issue's still there, well, then the needle's going to start pointing at you.
Yeah, exactly. And no one wants to be there.
Yeah.
I'll say one last thing on PBMs. I'm really, really interested in what happens in Arkansas, believe it or not.
Right.
Arkansas has become the first state in the country to say that if you are operating a PBM, you cannot operate a retail pharmacy in our state starting January 1st, 2026. So what's CVS going to do? Is it going to sell off its retail pharmacies? This might be the start of something quite interesting.
Yeah, Caremark, that's right.
It's so interesting because there's clear conflicts there, and we've talked about endlessly that how can you be a insurance company, a PBM, and have pharmacy all at the same time? It's just nuts. So I'm very curious to see what happens in Arkansas come January 1st, and what if other states follow along.
I have one word for you on that. You said Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
Walmart.
So Walmart.
There's got to be Walmart pressure there.
Yeah, there's gotta be
Arkansas,
some.
Walmart. Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'll just leave it at that.
Still, even if Walmart had a role to play in,
I'm sure they
did. And I'm completely speculating. I have not looked through the books to see.
Where there is smoke, there is a fire.
Samir has the advantage of not being a journalist, so he can speculate endlessly. All right. To the last topic.
Okay.
Equally exciting.
Sure.
Medicaid and the recent budget bill that was approved. So Medicaid, if this bill most likely will not pass the Senate, but the House bill was passed with significant work requirements for Medicaid people. For not Medicaid people, people who gain coverage through Medicaid.
Yeah.
So what do they mean by work requirements? So basically, if you're an able-bodied adult without children, you have to show that you have worked or attended school or done volunteering for 80 hours that previous month.
In a month. Okay, so 20, 20 a week, basically.
Yes,
Half,
you have to
part-time,
show
you're
that.
50%.
And you have to show documentation. It's not just saying, by the way, I do. You have to show documentation.
Okay.
Now, how many people would this affect? If my research is correct, the proposal as it is currently, the GAO estimates that 7.6 million people will lose coverage over a decade. Meanwhile, the federal government is supposed to save $250 billion. Which is not an insignificant sum. Now, it sounds very reasonable upfront. You, person A, require assistance from the state. The state and the government want to know whether you're deserving, whether you're not just laying around collecting checks. I get that.
Yeah.
But in reality, getting this done is not that easy because apparently Georgia and the second state I'm forgetting, is it Virginia, I believe. But 2 states have work requirements and people have fallen off of the rolls because they have found it very burdensome. There are technological issues in uploading information. And I have personally, having dealt with Social Security, trying to get Medicare, not Medicaid for my parents, I just realized how amazingly inefficient and rife with errors these systems are. So I just can't imagine that, poor people who are already stressed with a variety of things in their life now will face a ton of frustration in trying to upload information to a site. And how is this going to happen? God only knows. But I just feel that it's a very it's weird that you're going to fund these tax cuts. Some of the money is going to come from, obviously, these Medicaid cuts. It just paints a very unequal picture. And my sense is that this nonsensically named bill the one big beautiful bill act is not going to go too far in the Senate. Your take on Medicaid and all of this?
Oh yeah, you're 100% right. This ain't making it through the Senate. I mean, I'm going to be shocked because, as you said, the political cost of this is super high, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the senators who are from the red states, a lot of their constituents are actually on Medicaid.
Correct.
So you have midterms coming up,
Yeah.
right? And some of these seats are going to be up for grabs, and you're going to have competition. You're going to piss off your constituents, right? So I don't know if this is just a slam dunk to be like, oh yeah, let's just go ahead and tote the line. So, but let us say they get Trump armed. Did you see what I did there?
Strong arm, Trump armed.
Yeah. Okay, so how the hell are you gonna execute this?
Yes.
Is my question. So the government, yes, the government, which the Trump administration is not huge fans of, right? To your point, the government at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level is gonna have to create a system for people to upload these reports and these requirements and all that stuff, right? It's like almost like submitting a time card, right? How are you going to measure accountability? How are you going to support and avoid the burden that this is going to put not only in the government but on those employers too?
Right.
So we haven't even talked about them. They're like sitting there going, wait, I have a compliance thing? Because it's not just about, you talked about, there's going to have to be oversight. So you have the system. Okay, fine, there's a system. Now I have to upload my requirements. Great. Well, who's making sure that your requirements are authentic? Someone, right? The third party, meaning the person who you're volunteering or working for, has to sign off on it.
Right.
So now you're creating more systematic burden for the employers, the individual, the government at the local, state, federal level.
Right.
Okay. So, but here's the magic. This stuff costs money.
Right.
You're going to have to create these systems.
Right.
So here you are impacting 7.6 million lives or whatever and saving $250 million. Billion. It don't matter. It's going to evaporate because you're going to have a system. Right? The government is amazing at creating tech, aren't they? So you're going to have to create technology. You're going to have compliance. You're going to have to teach people how to use the system.
Right.
All that stuff. So basically you went out to cut Medicaid, and in the back end, you created more government spending.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, look, again, theoretically, go back to theory again. Yes, I do agree with this point. If you're able-bodied, you shouldn't be sitting around with your butt in a couch and not doing anything and collecting free insurance. I mean, get it.
Most people
Okay?
on Medicaid work.
That's what I know. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So in theory, I get.
Yeah.
You don't want people abusing the system. I
Right.
get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Okay? And I don't discount the attempt. But my point is the attempt is flawed.
Yeah.
You haven't taken into account the additional government spend that's going to come in enacting this.
Yeah.
So you're trying to save this, but I don't know if it's short term, midterm. You're going to have to create this system of accountability.
Right.
And that is going to take and put burden back on the government. So you're trying to cut government spending, but you just increase government spending.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just don't understand how it's going to go by.
Yeah.
And then bottom line, I don't even think it's going to make it through the state because these dudes are going to be like, I got to go win an election. How am I going to get through?
So the senators are not. I mean, I think I sort of agree with you. The GOP orthodoxy on not dealing with handouts and being against handouts is going to pound against the reality of electoral politics. Actually, you know what? Who is a big critic of the bill that just passed?
I want to know.
Elon Musk.
Ooh.
He basically said,
Mr. Doge?
Mr. Doge, and he pointed to Doge. He basically said that this is disappointing because the bill undermines what Doge has been trying to do, and the whole idea of you must cut costs and you must increase
that's what I just
efficiency.
said. Yeah, it's going to create more government work. So wait, Doge was supposed to be cutting, but if you have this system, you need to create a system, a portal, a platform, processes, but the government is going to have to do it.
generally about the budget deficit increasing as a result of this
No,
bill.
that's
right?
what I'm saying. I agree with him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I hear you. Well, we live in a topsy-turvy world now. What is down is up. And with that, we conclude our June episode. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please write to us at debunked@medcitynews.com. And please reach out to us for advertising opportunities. We do take sponsors for this show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and please, please comment. Call us out. Say
If
whatever
we're
you
wrong.
want.
Yep.
Thank you.
We have thick skins. Thanks.